Hey guys, it's Sam here, and I was supposed to upload a Indiana Jones episode today, but we cannot, well, that's going to have to be put on hold, because we can't ignore the big elephant in the room, and that is yesterday. Yeah. Look, the result, it doesn't really matter. You know, we're champions, so results are not too bothering me at this stage, because nothing can take away from the fact that we're champions. Yes, we threw a 2-0 lead away. Should we have done that, especially at home? No, but you can put a lot of excuses or a lot of reasonings for that, but that's not what we're here to talk about. Sadly, what was an incredible game between the top two teams, a very cliche of a game of two halves, was overshadowed by Trent, and most importantly the boos that he received. Now, I don't have a problem with either side. You know, if you booed him or clapped him, I was sat right there watching the game, saw him warming up and getting ready to come on, and I just thought, I don't like it. I just don't like it, because you could sense that it was brewing. You know, when his name was read out on the team sheet, there were quite a few boos. When he was warming up on the sidelines, there were quite a few boos. So there were warning signs here to say, do not bring him on. And Slot still brought him on. And you could tell how Liverpool fans felt about this, and they made it very, very clear. Not only with the boos, but just before his number was shown, as he was just on the sideline getting ready next to the fourth official to come on, the cops started singing Steven Gerrard's song, and then after he was taken off, they started singing One Conor Bradley, as well as booing him. And then the first few touches of the game that he had, there were quite audible boos as well. So yeah, that's unfortunately what we have to talk about, because I think we all should have an opinion on it as Liverpool fans, and that should be that. Of course, in this country, freedom of speech, free speech, and also the ability to have an opinion on everything is okay in this country. But I just think if you've got nothing to do with Liverpool, just stay out of it. Just stay out of it, because it's got nothing to do with you, and you're just going to fuel the fire. You're just going to piss us off even more. Let us have our say on how we want to feel about one of our own leaving. That should be that. You shouldn't have an opinion, you shouldn't be shitting on these people, and you also should not be telling people how to feel. You know, alright, it's completely two separate things, but you wouldn't tell someone how to grieve. You wouldn't tell someone how to maybe feel about a breakup. So why should you tell people how to feel about a player leaving your club, especially in the way that he is doing? It's not the fact that he's leaving, it's the fact, there are so many factors. It's on a free. It's to a massive European rival in Real Madrid. It's the fact that this has been orchestrated for possibly at least 2 years. It's the fact that he has basically been a coward and not said a thing all season, pissing people off even more. Especially when you have the likes of Van Dijk and Salah being very spoken about it. They've not said anything about their contracts. They've simply said, look, I can't really speak about it, but I love the club, I want to stay, we're in talks, that's it, I can't say anything more. I can't say anything else. No, that's not even come from Trent. He said fuck all. And he's supposed to be the local lad. You know, that is what's annoying them, and that is why a section of the fan base booed him, because they feel massively hurt, massively betrayed, and massively wronged. And in all of that, you're not going to get a great send-off. And I don't blame the fans. I don't blame the players for potentially maybe having a lapse of judgment and letting in that second. Ironically, played onside by Trent. But no, this has all happened because of Arne Slot. And I really don't want to shit on him. I don't want to, because I really like him. He's won us the Prem in his first season. He's done incredibly well. He's barely put a foot wrong. But this was a massive mistake. He never should have been on the pitch. Never. He should never have come on. And if Arne Slot cares about the fans, even slightly, he won't set foot on that pitch against Palace. Because why? I know his reason was to say that he owed it to the fans and the players to win the game. I respect that. But when you brought Trent on, we were 2-1 up. We were winning the game. You could have gone slightly more defensive and put Kwanzaa in there. You could have put Endo in there. You could have even, if you had to, put Simicast there. I would have put any of those three there before Trent. Because the lad's leaving. So why have him in the squad? The whole reason for starting Conor Bradley was to give him games for next season. So why not treat that with all the players? And possibly, you know, the futures of all three of them, Endo, Kwanzaa and Simicast, are all up in the air. But they're more likely to be here next season than Trent. So why not give them minutes instead of bringing on Trent? I just don't get it. I don't see the point in it. And it spoiled the atmosphere. The minute he came on, it turned toxic. And it was horrible to watch. And I can't imagine how it must have felt in the stadium. And sadly, because of that, people were escorted out of the ground for fighting. And it's not what you want to see, it's not what you want to hear, because this is meant to be a celebration. And instead, we're sat here talking about Trent and talking about our own fans fighting each other because they've got different opinions. And it's stupid. It really is. But this all could have been avoided if he just hadn't set foot on the pitch. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't tell anyone how to feel, but in my opinion, I really think that that should be the end of it. If he is brought on against Palace, I personally feel we shouldn't boo him again, just because you don't want it to overshadow the title celebrations. You know, you've made your point, now leave it at that. You know, he's heard it, we've all heard it, everyone knows that we're pissed, everyone knows that we're hurt, and leave it at that. I just think that is the smartest thing to do. But again, if he is brought on and there are more boos, you know, you can't blame them, and you can't say the warning signs weren't there. So, you know, what Slot does is what is what he wants. You know, he's in his right to continue to bring Trent on if he wants, but as fans, we are then in our right to say, you've done it again. Well, we're going to be maybe even louder. That's my worry for Palace, because Brighton, you know, the away fans, it's a minimal number, so you know they won't be as audible, and even if they're, if any, I would say, but it's the Palace game where it's at home where you're gonna have more audible potential boos, and it might even get even more toxic and louder if he is brought on again. What I would do personally, and this might get quite a bit of hate, and this might be completely the opposite of what the people that booed him would want, but I think if he did get brought on against Palace, I wouldn't boo him, I would clap him, and I would sing his song just for a couple of minutes, maybe even just a minute, just as he's on, just to prove that, look, we've booed you, we've showed you how we feel about this situation, but now we'll give you a slight send-off, because you don't deserve the big send-off anymore because, you know, of how you've handled this whole thing, and you're wanting to leave for free as well. You don't deserve the big send-off, but we give you this small little thing to take to Madrid with you, just to say, look, you got booed, but then you got clapped and cheered and waved off in a way. And it would also stick it to the outside world as well, who are shitting on Liverpool right now, calling it disgraceful, disrespectful, classless, you know, where's the loyalty and all of that. And it's like, again, you're the outside world, why are you having an opinion? You know, it's got nothing to do with you. But then, also to answer that, we can say, well, where's the loyalty from Trent? A local lad who also, let's not forget, earlier in the season had an interview on Sky where he said he would rather win the Ballon d'Or than the Champions League. He put himself over the club. As a local lad, that's even worse. So that's shit on Liverpool fans even more. So there's so much more that has fueled this. This hasn't been just, oh, he's made his decision, well, let's boo him. This has been fueled for a long time now. Pretty much all season, possibly even before that as well, when links were starting to emerge that he may want to join Real Madrid. It's a piss take. And also, I wouldn't get on your high horse if you're an Arsenal fan. I'll give you 3 names that I can think of the top of my head: Arsene Wenger, Robin van Persie and Granit Xhaka. Wenger, the most successful manager in Arsenal history, was hounded out by a section of the Arsenal fans, whether you thought it was right or wrong. They still did that. They protested for him to leave. They booed him, they screamed him, they shouted abuse at him, and that divided Arsenal fans, and that created toxicity in the Arsenal fan base. Granit Xhaka, when, you know, he was substituted, he gave the armband to someone else, and the crowd did the ironic cheers and jeers, and then also booed it, and obviously then he reacted, and then that created even more problems. But again, there's that. And then Robin van Persie, again, all 3 of these not local lads, by the way. Robin van Persie joins United, booed, talked shit of, even had a song made about him, you know, the certain C word regarding him, Can't say that on YouTube. But yeah, don't get on your high horse, because you've done it 3 times to 3 separate people in your club. Man United, I wouldn't start chatting because earlier in the season you booed Joshua Zirkzee for being substituted in 33 minutes. So I wouldn't be getting on your high horse if you're a United fan either. You know, this happens everywhere. And then also, every team, or every set of fans boo players off the pitch either at half time or full time for having a bad game. So yeah, you know, that's just for playing poorly. That's not for basically treating the club you're supposed to love as the local like shit, basically. You know, he treated the fans like shit, and he's treated the club like shit, really, in our eyes. Outside world, you can say, no he's not, he's just wanting a new challenge and all of this and that, and that's fine, alright? If that's your opinion, that's fine. But don't cross the mark and say, this is how Liverpool fans should be feeling. This is what Liverpool fans should be doing. Because you don't know what it's like. You know, if this was Paul Scholes or Ryan Giggs at 26 in their prime, telling United fans, in a bit, I'm off to Madrid for free, do you think they'd clap him off? No. If this was John Terry, do you think Chelsea fans would be giving him a great reception? Fuck no. If this was City and this was Phil Foden that was leaving on free, do you think they'd give him a great reception? No. If this was Arsenal and if this was Saka, the list goes on. You don't know how it feels until you're in that situation, so don't chat shit. That's it. That's all I have to say really on this. I know I said in the last video that it was going to be the final thing on Trent, but then this happened, and I just can't not talk about it. So yeah, that's that. It's sad. It is. It's sad that it's come to this. It's sad that it's ending this way, but this is what you get when you don't speak up. You know, saying that he was trying to just focus on winning the league with Liverpool and all of that lot, it's bullshit. It is. You know, Jurgen Klopp came out months before the end of the season and said that he was leaving, and we were on for a quadruple at that point. So yeah, and that rallied the fans and the players. So I'm sorry Trent, but that's not a good enough excuse. You were a coward by clearly holding this in for ages, and by not speaking about it, you've almost pretty much slithered off to Madrid behind closed doors without really letting the fans know what was happening. And also, we've not even got into his cryptic celebrations. No, I'm done. I'm done with this situation. In a bit, enjoy Madrid, because if you think that was bad, you're gonna get 10 times fucking worse in Madrid. So that's it. I'm done with the situation. Again, it's sad that it's come down to this and that it's ending this way, but you know, if you're not with us, you're against us. And right now, he's said he's not with us. So why should we celebrate him? Why should we cheer him? Why should we clap him? Why should we give him this great send-off that a legend should? In that case, a lot of people will say he's not a legend anymore, and you can't blame them either. But as I've said, that's it. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed, please have a like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.